It's 9 a.m. and I'll call the July 15th meeting of the Board of Supervisors to order. Our first item is approving the agenda.
The agenda as presented.
Second. I have a motion by Supervisor Jorgensen and seconded by Kiefer to approve the agenda as presented. Those in favor say aye. 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 Motion is carried. Item 2, public comment. Chair recognizes Kathy Carter.
I was reading through the minutes from last week and it brought up some points in my mind. First of all, it mentions that Summit was granted a permit. They were not. It is not a permit. They've been granted a decision and order by the IUB, now IUC. And there's a number of contingencies involved. I don't know if all of you have read through. I know Mark has skimmed 507 pages of this order. Part of it is Summit cannot do any construction in the state of Iowa until they receive permits in South Dakota and North Dakota for the routes, and also in North Dakota for the sequestration site. And there's some really interesting things happening in South Dakota right now. For instance, there was enough landowners who got really ticked off at their legislators and ran for offices, and so we now have a large overturn in legislative coming up in South Dakota. And one of their state laws that the sitting legislators deemed was a landowner's bill of rights, which really wasn't. South Dakota has referendum capabilities. They've got way more signatures than they needed to put a referendum on the ballot to try and overturn SB 201 in South Dakota. So there's a lot of things going on in South Dakota. That's one of the things. Nothing happened in Iowa until South Dakota, North Dakota. And there's also contingencies with routes in Minnesota and Nebraska as well. Summit has some other things that they need to do, like for those of us that are on the Exhibit H, the non-signers, they have to amend easements to show exact pipe size rather than that vague language that says not to exceed certain size. They have to provide CO2 monitors for first responders, personal vehicles, and department vehicles, which is kind of fruitless because by the time something shows up in the CO2 monitors, there's already going to be damage somewhere, someone. They need to make landowners whole for any breaches in CRP contracts, so we need to be aware of that. And they work with counties to get real-time notification methods in place. Summit also has to obtain a $100 million liability insurance policy, which, as one legislator who is also a lawyer stated, that's only about 10 wrongful death lawsuits. So that's not much reassurance to us landowners and neighbors. A lot of the landowners, upwards of 200, I don't even know the exact number, signed up some time ago at the very beginning with Domina Law out of Omaha, Nebraska. You've probably heard that name. Brian Jordy has been representing landowners, and he has said that, you know, there's 30 days to consider. The IUC has 30 days to consider the request for reconsideration, which Tim Whipple did on behalf of the counties last week. After that decision, the landowners and other entities, because we already know there's some other ones, that are going to file appeals to the state district court. It will work its way up state appellate courts and ultimately the Iowa Supreme Court. So there's a long road ahead. It's not a done deal. This pipeline is not a done deal by any means, any stretch. Last week it got questioned at what point should property owners take on the battle? Well, as I explained, a lot of us have engaged legal representation for quite a long time now at our own expenses. And the mention of a majority signing really irritates me because we know a lot of instances where it wasn't necessarily voluntary. They got told a lot of things by sweet talking PR sales pitches. They had landowners who felt a lot of pressure. I know of one here who said, I had to sign or my mental health was in tragedy, in jeopardy. So when we talk about Ehlers and Cooney expiring, I have a question on that, the representation, because we don't know what's coming down the road. There's been discussion of hydrogen hubs in the state, methanol, SAF. So I thought the original intent of Ehlers and Cooney was to write and put in place some setback ordinances, not to protect us all from the CO2 pipelines, but to protect the entire county from anything else that may be coming down the pike. So the question about the expiring,
Just fine.
explain that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Is there anyone else listening on the phone that'd like to make a public comment at this time? Hearing none, we'll move to the next item, which is review and action regarding the approval of the July 8th, 2024 minutes. Another look at those, actually, after hearing your comments, Kathy, let's see. That part. What's it say in here? I probably said it. Let's see what it says. Looking for the part where it says the permit was approved. That's what you mentioned in your. Is that correct?
In the board minutes, it's the second paragraph, first sentence. Provided an overview of the intervention process leading up to the permit issued to Summit Park.
All right, well, yeah, I guess to be absolutely correct, it could be the final decision on a permit. They weren't issued the permit, you're correct. So if, we can certainly correct that. Leading up to the, let's see, appropriate language might be leading up to the highway utility board's final decision on Summit Carbon Solutions. The title of your paperwork was decision and order. All right. How about this then? Kim provided an overview of the intervention process leading up to, and it's just deep. How about if we delete it, leading up to the permit issued to Summit Carbon Solutions, and say, leading up to the IUB's final decision and order on Summit Carbon Solutions permit.
That sounds better to me because I think anybody reading this is going to assume there is a permit.
All right.
That's in the second paragraph, the first sentence, right?
Yes.
All right,
So,
then yeah.
I just want to mention that from what was said at a meeting to what should have been said at a meeting is a different thing. And so I think you just have to be careful of changing to something that wasn't said at a meeting in the minutes. But these just went to the newspaper Friday, and so I can change these minutes if you want these minutes changed because they haven't been published, but just to make sure that it's clear that changes are to what was said at the meeting, not what maybe should have been said at the meeting. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense, and I guess the only way to really look that up is to see what did I say, because I might have said that, but since you brought up the question that we can review those online, the consideration, is that on our YouTube page?
Should be on our, I think Gloria's looking for it.
Yeah, I can probably get it better on the
I
recording.
think that'd be
than the
a
YouTube.
good way to resolve that situation. Are there any other questions regarding the minutes other than this one we're discussing?
I don't have any.
anything.
All right, well, we'll look into this right now. We can pull that up. We probably talked about it for a long time, so we'll see what was said.
At that point, and the question about Taylor's and 20 expiring, that was my question.
So, other than that, that's all I have.
Mr. Whipple said it might be a, and this meeting, on is in the 507 case report. Final report and by the utility board on summits from there. Okay, let's stop right there. Okay, we want to hear it again. It was the final report and decision on summits. Early review. Permit hearing. 507 case report. Final report and decision by the utility board on summits from there. We are one of several. Okay, I think that's that sentence is what's in question here. Did I say that they issued a permit? I said that the IUD. Yeah. 507 case report. Final report and decision by the utility board on summits from there. Okay.
There's probably more though that would have been said in the meeting.
We are one of
But,
several.
whatever interpretation you have of it.
Process. I mean, we have. Well, based on that, I comments. We need to. What do you think? On behalf of our seven counties. So,
Something you wanna add to these minutes or?
well,
change?
you know, we've had a request to change them because, county resident.
There's nothing, there's no comment on permit hearing, and it's
A permit issue.
permit issue. Difference, right, between a hearing and being issued.
Say so.
I don't think I would any time during the rest of that said that there was a permit issue, but, is there a general agreement on that, what we heard? I didn't say
Maybe.
there was a permit issue.
Right.
So, if you want to correct these minutes, we can certainly do that.
If this, what's in here isn't what was said, correct?
I believe it said somewhere in that meeting.
Permit being issued.
I believe it's in there somewhere.
Could we add to it for clarity? Was not. That want to say? You want to word it?
Well, I think we just want to accurately depict what was stated at the meeting. And if Auditor Carr thinks at some point later in that discussion I said that, why don't we review all of that, all the comments that were made by me during that agenda item and see what I said. If we need to do that, we can do that right now. I don't know how long that is, but
I suggest that maybe we hold off approving the minutes. And you can keep going rather than taking Elizabeth's time, and Todd's gonna be coming down here and he's got some time sensitive stuff. I'm gonna be.
at today's meeting.
Yes.
In fact, perhaps someone can, outside of the office, perhaps someone in your department could listen to what this is and get back to us and see if there's anything that was said during that time. That's all, but it's always right.
In the interest of efficiency,
Well, and accuracy as well.
yeah, accuracy too.
Could someone, are you arranging that so somebody to listen to there and to see if at any point during the meeting I stated that a permit was issued to Summit Carbon Solutions? All right, well, we'll move on to the next item for now.
Well, I was just wondering if you could just simply put it in the minutes of this meeting that it was clarified that there was no.
I think we're on the course of seeing what I actually said right now.
All right.
And we've got somebody.
I didn't mean to muddy up all the waters.
Well, we'll get it straightened out. All right, that's fine. We'll move on to item 4 at the moment, which is review and action regarding approval of claim.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah,
You're right. Yeah. Yes, I jumped in.
I took a look at the claims, the only thing that jumped out at me, and it wasn't a big dollar amount, but on the public defender, there was like 18 unpaid warrants for a total of $700 some, and we, county has to pay those.
And warrants are for,
I don't know what they're for.
yeah,
What do you have? What is the question?
On the public defender, there were 18 unpaid warrants for a total of about $700. What are those warrants and why are we paying them?
Because we have a public defender account that we have to pay those for. If those are for indigent type cases or whatever they are. Did you come in to look at claims on Friday to see what they were?
I looked at them Sunday.
No, the claims, not the report. Claims, if you have questions, it's great if you can come in and look at the actual claims.
Okay.
Lexi, are you on the phone?
Yes, I'm here.
Could you go through the public defender claims and advise the supervisors on what those claims are for? Please?
Do you happen to have that claim number for me?
You'll find your claim numbers.
Oh, actually, I'm looking for it. It's,
So it's, claim number 113.
So that's paid to the Floyd County Sheriff's Department, and that's for paperwork that is served on people, such as civil paperwork, juvenile paperwork, and warrants served.
Maybe it would be good sometime if you guys reviewed claims, physical claims, rather than just a report once in a while.
We typically have this sort of claim being paid once a month to the Floyd County Sheriff for those paperwork services.
okay, that answers my question. I didn't know if someone other than the county was required to pay those warrants or.
No, so that's us paying the Floyd County Sheriff back for serving that paperwork, and the warrant serve is just a type. So we have like juvenile paperwork served, civil paperwork, and then the warrant served.
Okay,
So we've talked about different times that maybe Elizabeth could even land in on some of this, but we issue warrants from Floyd County to Floyd County. But it is for appropriateness of where services were provided, but it is one fund paying. Oftentimes it's one fund paying the same fund, but it's different departments.
all right, thank you.
Anything you want to add there?
And then the other thing, we got a Bolton and Lake bill for $2,100, I think.
That's your.
Are they about done, I wonder? Or they're- How's the drainage ditch doing?
I haven't been by it for 10 days, but it's changed a lot. I haven't heard any negative comments recently. I think it's probably on track for, I think their completion date is sometime in September
Yeah, that's all because of seeding,
because of seeding.
the grass seeding window. But I don't know if you have an agenda item for the Larson contracting. I had asked Tyler if he'd be able to participate. If he doesn't come on for that, or if he's not on, what he did send in an email was, in general, progress has been slow with recent rains. The contractor plans to utilize a second excavator and crew to help get the project back on schedule. I'm still confident in their abilities to finish on time.
I don't have any comments regarding the claims.
Is there a motion to approve the claims as presented?
Make a motion to approve the claims as presented.
Second,
A motion has been made by Supervisor Jorgensen and seconded by Kiefer to approve our claims as presented. Those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item 5, updates on various boards, commissions, activities since the last meeting.
I didn't have any, commission meetings. I did attend the, activity of the, airport breakfast, which was really fun and interesting, good food. Other than that, I didn't have anything.
I attended the North Central Regional Emergency Planning Committee. And their hazmat team had, since the last time we met, responded to a sulfuric acid spill at Mercy One Hospital. They said by the time they got there, the hospital staff had it pretty much under control. There was also a farm accident by Ventura that created some diesel spill. They had to do some work to keep it from getting into Clear Lake. Also in Riceville, Iowa, they responded to a boring leak, but it was actually in Howard County. And that is a different team from Waterloo, I think, that came up to that. And then I attended the Motorola meeting as well, Wednesday afternoon. Mine.
All right, I didn't attend any meeting on behalf of the county, but the motion to reconsider was Summit's final decision and order on the Summit docket was submitted on 12th of July by all 7 counties that are represented by Whipple, Allard, and Cooney. And it turned out we had 16 pages long. And I forwarded it to both of you this morning, and you can review it. Based on a lot of things, and I'm not going to go through them at the meeting, but you can review it at your leisure. That sets the clock for 30 days that the Iowa Utilities Board had to respond to our motion to reconsider. There are other motions to reconsider being filed by other entities like us, the 7 counties who have intervened in the Summit docket. So 30 days now, at that point in time, the IUB sometime during that period will respond to this, and as we mentioned, it's very likely they'll reject the motion to reconsider. Kathy, to answer your question, the representation with Allard County that Floyd and the other 6 counties, all 7 counties, signed was for representation through the permit hearing. So that ends. So this was kind of like the final part of that motion to reconsider their final decision and order. Any future representation, like I believe you mentioned, appeal to district court, require a whole new representation on behalf of the county, and that's something that I haven't seen yet, and the board will not.
Engaged to help.
Yes, they were, but that is,
But the time frame is such.
yeah, well, once they've decided, they've made their final decision, but the representation then ends. So we're, that's part.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, here we are. Elizabeth, welcome. Presentation of the fiscal year 23 audit report. Thank you.
Morning, everybody has your books?
Yes.
Okay, we'll just kind of go ahead and go through and hit the highlights, and I guess let me know if you have any questions. So, the first stop we'll make is gonna be on page 2. It's Gardner Company letterhead, and this is the independent auditor's report. And again, this report goes ahead and explains that the purpose of an audit is to opine on whether or not the financial statements are fairly presented. An audit has nothing to do with finding fraud or finding errors or irregularities. It's not designed to do that. It's designed to opine on whether or not the financial statements are fairly presented. The audit is based on tests and samples. We don't look at every single transaction that goes through the county during the fiscal year, and then we go ahead and we issue our opinion on the financial statements based on our audit test work. So this report again, goes ahead and steps that out. And for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2023, we have issued an unmodified opinion, which is what you want to hear. Means it's a clean opinion, and we believe that the financial statements are fairly presented. Now, during the course of our audit test work, we did find some transactions that had not been included in the financial statement. So we proposed adjusting journal entries for those items which were made by the county so that all of those transactions are now properly included in these financial statements. This independent auditor's report also goes ahead and talks about the responsibilities of management for the financial statements. These are the county's financial statements. They have to take full responsibility for them. And then on page 3, it kind of goes through what our auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the financial statements are. And again, we provide reasonable assurance that the financial statements are fairly presented. It also goes ahead and explains how we have to exercise professional judgment. We're assessing the risks of material misstatement of the financial statements. During the course of the audit, we do go ahead and obtain an understanding of internal controls. We look at your accounting policies and procedures. And then at the end, we also look to determine if there are any conditions or events that might impact your ability to continue as a going concern. Okay, so then on page 6, we start with the management's discussion and analysis. And as always, Floyd County actually presents 3 different sets of financial statements. There's the full accrual, which are most like what you would see in the private industry, the modified accrual, which mirror the GAAP report that is presented for the Department of Management. And then also because the county budgets on the cash basis of the county, we also have a budget to actual cash comparison included in this. So the management's discussion and analysis goes ahead and talks about the highlights, talks about what's included in this annual report. And the big things for this year, there was a new governmental accounting standards board statement number 96 that the county did implement for this year in regards to subscription-based information technology arrangements. But you did go ahead and adopt a policy for that, and there were no agreements that met the reporting thresholds for this fiscal year, so it didn't have any impact on financial statements. The other big thing was that the mental health fund was eliminated at June 30 of 2022. So there's no mental health activity as we know it contained in these financial statements. So then the pages that follow, again, go ahead and explain what all is in this report. There's some comparative financial statements comparing fiscal 23 with fiscal 22. This management discussion and analysis also gives the county an opportunity to talk about the budget amendments that were made during fiscal 23. And then on page 13, there's a chance for the county to talk about looking forward into fiscal 24 and beyond. So there's a couple paragraphs about that. Then the actual financial statements start on page 15. And we start with the full accrual financial statements, which again is most likely what you would see in the private sector. Exhibit A is your statement of net position, which is like your balance sheet. It includes your capital assets and all of your long-term liabilities. And then Exhibit B is your statement of activities, which is most like your income statement in the private sector. And for this fiscal year, Floyd County did see a change in that position of $4.1 million of an increase. So a good share of that was the infrastructure that went through the farm to market account for your secondary roads. Anything that goes through that, whether it's completed or not, there was $1.1 million worth of fund balance that was included for that. Also, you know, items of note, you continue to spend your American Rescue Plan Act funding. So that's reflected in these financial statements as well. So then on page 18, we have Exhibit C, which is the modified accrual balance sheet for your governmental funds. So this again mirrors the GAAP report that's presented to the Department of Management. We present the general rural services, secondary roads, debt service, and then the LEC courthouse debt service fund as major. So they're presented individually, you know, on the face. And then we have a non-major column. So all of your other budgetary smaller funds are aggregated and presented then in that non-major fund. And then when we get to the back of the book in schedules 1 and 2, that goes ahead and gives the detail for those smaller funds. So Exhibit C then, like I said, is your balance sheet. Exhibit E, that is going to be your statement of revenues and expenditures on the modified accrual basis. And then Exhibits D and F step you through the accrual process of how you get from the modified accrual to the full accrual. And it just kind of steps you through what the changes are, what the differences are, so that you can go through and see what happens during that process. Exhibit G, H, and I are for your internal service employee health fund. Health insurance continues to be very challenging to budget for and pay for and provide, a good plan for your employees, but, we kind of say that anytime you have a little bit of net income, it's a win, and there was a little bit of net income here, but, it's difficult because you don't know what you're gonna incur for claims during the year. There's no way to budget or predict or estimate that, so that continues to remain a challenge. And then Exhibit J and Exhibit K are your fiduciary funds. So that's your schools, your townships, your corporations, the assessor's office, those funds for which the county acts as a fiduciary agent. So the balance sheet for that is on page 30, Exhibit J. It shows the snapshot of where we're at June 30th. And then Exhibit K shows the ins and outs during the fiscal year. And then these are supported by Schedules 3 and Schedules 4 in the back. It shows the detail. So then that gets us to the notes to the financial statements that start on page 32. And I'm going to skip through all of these unless somebody has a specific question on them. There hasn't been a lot of changes from prior years. Again, it's more accounting definitions and terminology. It has your debt amortization schedules. It talks about your insurance, talks about your health insurance. There's 5 pages of actuarial information regarding the pension liability that is calculated by IBER's actuaries, and they provide information on that. Again, we talk about the accounting change with the implementation of GASB Statement 96, which did not affect you guys at all. Didn't have anything to report there. So the next page I would like to stop at then is page 59. And this is the comparison schedule of the receipts and disbursements and changes in balances. This is our budget to actual cash basis comparison. So the first column on page 59 is the actual cash receipts and cash disbursements for the county's county's governmental funds. The column that's titled less funds not required to be budgeted, that's your drainage. So your drainage assessments that have been collected and your drainage disbursements that have happened during the year. So we pull those out of those numbers as they're not required to be budgeted, and we get to the net. And then we present your original budget, and we also present your final amended budget, and then we do that final to net comparison. All of the variances here were able to be explained by the county staff. A couple of them are significant, but again, explain. Projects never go the way you think you're going to. Mother Nature always intervenes, especially it seems like in the last couple of weeks, Mother Nature has really intervened. And then also with supply chain issues, we've seen a lot of counties ordering machinery and equipment and then having to wait. So they may have budgeted for those expenditures, but because of the supply chain issues, they're not able to go ahead and make those expenditures because that equipment isn't available. So like I said, even though there are a couple significant variances there, everything was explained and there weren't any red flags for that. And then following that, we have some required supplementary information about the budget, just some extra explanation. And then there are several pages of required supplementary information in regards to IBERS. And again, all this information is provided by IBERS actuary and the state auditor's office. They go ahead and provide the information to be included in your report. So then we get to page 71. And these are the non-major governmental funds. This is the funds that are aggregated and presented as non-major in the front of the book. This is the chance to present all of those smaller governmental funds. So Schedule 1 is your balance sheet. Schedule 2 is your statement of changes. A new fund for this year is your opioid settlement fund. And we'll have that going forward. But that's the only real big change for that. Schedule 3 and Schedule 4 then are the details for your custodial funds. So we've got the statement of net position and changes for those funds. And then on Schedule 5, which is page 79 and 80, this is a 10-year comparison for your governmental funds. It has the revenues by source and the expenditures by function for the last 10 years. Then that gets us to page 81, which is on Gardner & Company letterhead. And this is independent auditors report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters. So in addition to opining on whether or not the financial statements are fairly presented, we also do some internal control work and some compliance with the Code of Iowa test work. So again, this test work is based on tests and samples. We don't look at every single transaction that might have impacted the findings. So, if you do something once a month and we pick the one month that you messed it up to test, it triggers a finding, even though you did it right the other 11 times, so. So again, this just goes ahead and explains that and leads into the schedule of findings then. So the first finding that we have is segregation of duties, and that's an old friend. It's in every single audit report that we issue, just because you don't have enough people on staff to entirely segregate the custody and record keeping with the cash and the assets. So it is possible that one person could handle a transaction from inception to completion. We do have an internal control questionnaire that we go ahead and give a lot of the elected officials and department heads to kind of go through and try to segregate things as much as possible. But people take vacations, people get sick, people have to be gone, and you know, that kind of can compromise that internal control structure. So like I said, because of the nature of only having a couple people in each office, we're gonna have this finding in the audit reports. The next finding we have is in regards to financial reporting. And during the course of the audit, we identified material amounts of accounts receivable, accounts payable, capital assets and infrastructure, construction progress, and deferred inflows that were not properly reported on the financial statements. So we did propose adjusting journal entries that were made by the county to go ahead and address these issues. And so the correct amounts are in the financial statements. Now, with part of this, the deferred inflows of resources and part of the accounts receivable is due to the opioid settlement, which that was new for this year. The state auditor's office did provide spreadsheets and information about as far as how much each county is supposed to receive. And I know Gloria's got probably a whole folder with all the information on tracking the receipt of those funds. So that's new. We did, I think I did send you that spreadsheet that we used, or I can if I didn't. Okay, we took the information from the state auditor's office and developed a spreadsheet to go ahead and track that. So I can look and I can send that to you today so that you have it. The state auditor's office during our training did announce that they believe that the CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart, and along with a couple of the other settlements are complete now too. So hopefully that information has hit their website, because those will need to be added too. And this will be, you know, collected over the next 17 years. So, you know, if we have a spreadsheet to go ahead and track, and if, you know, you have somebody in your office that can track those receipts, and then provide that information to come when we come, that will eliminate that piece of the finding. The other thing with the accounts receivable is just making sure the departments are communicating with the treasurer's office, especially July and August. You know, they're receiving some money that is for July, they're receiving money that is for June, and the treasurer's office is not in those departments day to day to know if it is for July or if it's for June. So it's really important for the departments to communicate with the treasurer's office and make sure that they're letting them know if it is prior fiscal year or current fiscal year. The next finding that we have then is preparation of full disclosure financial statements. This again is at 98% of the audit reports that we issue. It's just because the county does not have a CPA on staff that is able to do the gap report for the Department of Management, and then also the full accrual financial statements, and then preparing all of the footnote disclosures for this book. So because we assist with that process, we go ahead and we are required to put that finding in the book. So then on page 85, we start with the statutory reporting findings, and we did have one about the certified budget. There were disbursements in certain departments that exceeded the amounts appropriated. So again, the recommendation is for the departments to be keeping an eye on their budget and letting Gloria know if they need to have an appropriation amendment or if they actually need to do a full budget amendment. So it's important for the departments to be watching that monthly and communicating with Gloria. The questionable expenditures. During the course of the audit, we did not identify any expenditures that we believe to be questionable regarding public purpose. Now, that doesn't mean there wasn't any. It means, again, our audit is based on tests and samples. So we go ahead and select, you know, we have a random number generator that pulls the claims and the claims numbers that we're going to be testing. So based on our test work, we didn't see anything that was considered to be questionable. So. On the next page, then page 86, we talk about business transactions. These are the related party transactions that we noted during the year. The Code of Iowa identifies $6,000 as the threshold for a potential conflict of interest. We only had one vendor that was over that $6,000 threshold, but because Diana does not participate in the acquisition of the services, this just becomes a transparency disclosure, and there's no finding associated with it. Okay, then on the next page, we do have another finding about the Code of Ordinances, and I understand that that is in the works. So hopefully that will be resolved for the next fiscal year. And that is all that we have for statutory report findings. So I do want to talk a little bit about your federal money. With the American Rescue Plan Act dollars, they fall under the single audit umbrella. So the threshold for having to have a single audit is expending $750,000 of federal money during the fiscal year. You did that this year because of the American Rescue Plan Act. So the federal government and the Office of the OMB have noted that since there's a lot of smaller communities that haven't had to have a single audit before, if they are having to have a single audit because of the American Rescue Plan Act, they gave them the option of having an alternative compliance examination engagement, which is where you fell. For the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2023, Floyd County spent $1,491,322.31 in federal dollars for the American Rescue Plan Act, well above the $750,000 threshold for a single audit. But because the rest of the federal money that you received was way under that threshold, we did the compliance examination. So we did have to come through and do compliance test work on those expenditures. And then there was a separate report issued, an independent accountant's report that talked about the procedures that were performed. The federal audit, the federal OMB has compliance requirements that you have to go through and test. And luckily, this is a lot less in scope than a full-blown single audit. But then after that, after we issued this report, then Gloria was required to submit the report to the U.S. Department of Treasury. Originally, they had said that these are going to have to be submitted to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse. To my knowledge, the Federal Audit Clearinghouse still is not accepting these. They revamped the Federal Audit Clearinghouse website back in October of 2023, and they've had some bugs, and they don't have everything fully functional yet. So at some point,
We did this, we wouldn't let me submit it.
what?
The audit report. So I needed to answer that question that we were doing the
For
with the U.S. Treasury.
the U.S. Treasury, you should be able to.
So then I followed up with an email back at the time when we talked about this, when this was released, and I received no response.
Really? I can put you in contact with a county that has done it because I know that the U.S. Treasury is accepting it. We don't have access to it. They want the auditees to be the ones submitting the report, and they've made it possible because I can't get in, I can't see. You have to go ahead and submit it through where you do your reporting for ARPA.
Yep, and that's where I went.
Okay.
And because we did our report, and through the report that was submitted, it had a question if we were doing this alternate thing.
Okay.
And at the time, where we were doing it, so I put no. And so that's why I've asked them if I
They
can
probably have
redo
you
that
blocked.
report. They can open that up so we can change that response, and I've received no response.
Okay.
on that.
Okay. That's
But
frustrating.
if you have somebody, maybe.
Well, and like I said, everybody else, I think, checked yes, because they knew they were gonna have it. So, that might be why that was available to them and not to you.
right.
So,
That's what I wanted.
but like I said, I can't even get in there to see it to know what to tell you because
Yeah.
they've got us locked out. It's just the auditees that have the access to that,
Yeah.
so.
I'll
Okay.
keep following.
Okay. And then we did have other little things that were discussed with the departments, at the time when we were here to do the audit field work too. So, if we come across something that we think we can do more efficient, or, we've seen another county have an issue with something, we definitely share that information during the course of the audit, so.
I have a question. Timeliness for semi-annual reports to be submitted.
The code does not specify that. The code just says it has to be done. It doesn't have a deadline to my knowledge unless there's something in the new code for this year. But again, it's pertinent information, so the quicker the better. But I know with the change in treasurer that, it's a learning curve, it's a learning process, so.
I just checked.
Yeah, no, I know they have to be, published and approved, but to my knowledge, there isn't a deadline for that. Other questions, concerns?
How many counties do you do?
We audit, well, for fiscal 23, we audit 10. And then I consult for another 5.
And cities
And we also do cities. Yep, we've got a handful of cities.
and co-ops.
Yep, co-ops are the main clientele, I guess, for our firm, especially out of our Des Moines office. But we also do the landfill, the Floyd Mtg. We've got them as a client also. So yeah, it's for this year, it's 11 counties, 3 cities, and then we have the landfill back, and then the CRC and Osage, which is kind of a combination, 2080 not for profit. Yeah, that's what I have. The rest of the firm does a lot of, like you said, cooperative 401k audits, credit unions, that type of thing. 9 inches, the governmental, I just do governmental.
Any comments, questions from members of the board regarding the audit?
I don't have.
I don't have any. Oh, hearing none, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you for letting me come and visit with you guys. I want to thank your county employees and elected officials and department heads too, because they're really easy to work with. So we appreciate all the prep work that they do to make the audit go smoothly.
Right, thank you, Elizabeth. Well, I'm gonna try to meet with you a little bit later on today on another issue.
Okay.
Are you available later on sometime today or tomorrow?
Today's probably better than tomorrow. I am going to be at another engagement though, so just give my.
We really won't have much more, there's not a lot on our
I can
agenda.
hang around. I can go upstairs in Gloria's office and I
Right.
can wait. Yeah.
That'd be fine. It
Okay.
won't, this won't take, I think we'll be done with our agenda fairly shortly.
Okay. All right.
All right, thank you
Yeah.
for sticking around with us.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, item 7, review and action regarding drainage district open ditch repair and RK app. Most recent one. Let's see if Tyler is on there, but it was in the packet, I believe it was about $3,000.
20 minutes.
Okay.
3,600 is one of them.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at
Look at it, the total cost of project is $441,000 and we're about, what's that say in there?
414,714.
Okay,
Yeah, 400.
360 is what they said. Right here.
all right.
that. Okay.
Okay.
So this is addition to that, this one?
Now, this is for the contract for the project. That's both the mixed services. That you just pay on your normal drainage claim payout.
All right. Questions, comments? Tyler's not with us. Do you have anything about this, this pay app for this particular part of the project?
I'll make a motion to pay drainage district number 3, open ditch repair, pay app number 8.
I'll second.
A motion by Supervisor Kiefer, seconded by Jorgensen to pay app number 8 for drainage district 3, open ditch repair. Is there further discussion? Anyone listening on the call in? Like to make a comment? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Discussion with the county engineer about secondary road activities.
Morning. You.
I printed 4 copies, but I only have 3 Goya. I can give you, unless, I don't know if I dropped it, but I did. I had 4.
Are we on the top?
Yeah, sorry. Well, maintenance wise, the maintenance crews have been working on drive permits and work orders just like normal. Last week they started doing some patching on Underwood, south of Niles Corner there. That concrete section's in pretty tough shape. So there's a few areas that we need to patch. The road crew's been working on rock resurfacing's about 1/3 done. They're gonna start that up again this week. They've been off for a couple weeks. Skyline was home for some other projects. They're also out mowing gravel roads yet. I know some of that brush is getting under, some of that grass is getting high there. And they're blading as well. Shop wise, nothing of note, which is good, just general shop maintenance. They've been able to get a little bit ahead on some things, I know, and do some, actually have to do some preventative maintenance, which is great. They were pulling up shoulders. They got that a couple weeks ago. They got some shoulders pulled up the road, crew did. Bridge crew, has been working on T26 and B60. They just got a culvert replacement done last week on T26. They have one more left. I don't think they'll get to it this week because we've got our B60 day labor job is open right now, and that precast box is getting delivered tomorrow. So most of the bridge crew will be working on that this week, but then they'll get back over to T26 and hopefully finish up over there in the next couple weeks. And then the road crew did do some brushing as well. So they've been pretty busy. And office wise, I think we only have one more document left for Victory Average, and then that's all finalized out. So that ended up coming out pretty good. Floyd 3rd Avenue should be open today. They should be out there painting right now. They got here at, I think, 9:30, so.
Striking it as everything.
Yeah, so, and we've got the temporary signs all up there's a couple of one temporary stop sign we had to put up until we can get it located. So, once they get that painted here this morning, we can open it up. So I imagine, we'll be before the end of the day, but I mean, it might even be by noon. So hopefully sooner than later. So that'd be good to have that project completed. Jake's been out helping the guys on T26, setting elevation and grade, when those guys are putting those pipes in. So he's helped on that and the B60 job. And then they're gonna start moving, to the Kirkwood, bridge replacement. That's our other day labor project. They'll start moving to that probably next week. So Jake's gonna get ahead of them and get that, anything that they need marked out for survey wise, before they get there. And then Tracy's just had general office work, nothing abnormal. We will have to start working on our annual report next month. Usually we get that done in August, so. Otherwise, we did year-end stuff and everything ended up pretty good from last year, so.
Kirkwood Bridge is north of 120th, or is that?
Yeah, yep, north of 120th. It's kind of, you come down a hill. When you're going northbound, you come down the hill, and then the bridge is kind of right at the bottom of the hill there. There's a big lime shelf that we're trying to hopefully not get too into. There'll be a bunch of extra time excavation. But that one's one, I think it's posted, I don't know if it's posted at 10 tons or.
It's very much.
Yeah, it's not very good shape, so that'll be a good one to get off the list.
What do you have for updates on the weed commissioner? Back to things that wheels aren't turning as quick as some people would like.
Yeah, I know, I talked with Tim, it's going pretty well, but like we had that flooding come up, and I know there's some complaints during the flooding, and Tim's main focus is gonna be our roads, during those times. So I know there's some of that where if he's got to prioritize, usually we prioritize the roads, So I know that there's been, I think, a thistle complaint that he's got to get taken care of yet, but otherwise I think it's going pretty well for him. But I haven't really been involved too much in it. It's kind of just let Tim do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. But other than that, I don't think I have a whole lot else unless you guys had any other questions or anything.
I don't.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jacob.
Yep, have a good one.
All right, is county attorney, available now, or is he in court already?
Or they had commitments. Gonna try to work this in between a couple of different commitments he had to. We are working, if you have a chance, down here, you can call my cell phone and I can transfer the phone to talk about it. Bye.
Sure, do that. Note the hiring of a jailer, item 11.
Laura Kramer.
Yeah. The letter from Aurora Kramer has accepted the position of Floyd County jailer. She is jail certified for the state of Iowa, will start out at $22 an hour. First day for the department will be July 16th.
We'll get Mr. Cook's staff up to where they need to be.
I think that does put him back up.
Didn't he lose 2 jailers recently and this is just one replacement?
But he just hired, just a couple weeks ago, you noted the hiring.
That's right.
Mom has Mario's time.
You're right.
Not,
So you may be up to what you said, right?
actually, I think he is, because looking at his wage certification, he updated that with, one that just started a couple of weeks ago, and there was only one left, so this should fill.
This scale will start tomorrow.
Location is still on there. I'm not sure. Because he lost Caitlin, or loses Caitlin this month. I'm not sure if he's up to speed or not. Might still be down there. It's good he's got it certified.
Oh, yeah.
Ready to go.
Yeah,
So
hit
they're
the
not
ground running.
certified.
Attorney, would you like to just start off with talk about item 10, which is discussion regarding sharing a position? And we'll just talk about that. If county attorney comes, that's fine.
Yeah. So, Todd has been looking for a position. He had, Aaron, who was full-time, and, or not counting the attorneys, he had Elizabeth and Aaron. And, and then a part-time assistant county attorney. And the part-time assistant county attorney resigned. Aaron is no longer with the county. And instead of filling with that part-time attorney position, he came to us and he'd like to do a different setup and not have that attorney position. So since he has hired Allison Hocking, and instead of hiring an attorney, he just feels like all he needs right now is a part-time position. So he had posted, the same time I had posted for a part-time position in my office. He had posted for part-time. But he did his posting as part-time or full-time because he and I had talked about sharing a position back at that time. So it's about a wash whether you have a full-time person that's shared between 2 departments with benefits versus a part-time people at 20 up to 29 hours a week that you can have for that part-time. Pretty much the budget. And so my budget had 29 hours a week for a part-time person. We talked about that sharing opportunity. And so when we did those, when he had calls or applications turned in for his position, he had none turned in for part-time, only for full-time. So we've had multiple conversations about, do we think we could share this position? And, we've interviewed, a couple of people, we've done some phone interviews and regular interviews, and we think we have someone who might be just the right fit to share a position between. Our last interview was on Friday. We both feel that that's a person that would be a good fit for both offices. And so we would like to move forward with that, with an offer with, shared position. So, hey, we're just talking about this. We're just talking about the shared position idea, and I said how you had posted full-time or part-time, had no one for part-time. And so we've engaged this whole conversation of sharing a position. I only had one person for part-time with my ad, so it's hard to fill those part-time positions sometimes, and so we kind of thought if we could find the right person to do this full-time. That's about where we're at right now.
And I don't have a need for a full-time. I think I have a need for, like if we have a big trial coming up, maybe I have a need for 20, 30 hours that week. Maybe just, let's say 12, 15 hours. If I'm kind of on the short end of most weeks, I'm fine with that. I think it'd be really good. And the candidate we have in mind has got really kind of got a little bit of law enforcement background, very military police officer, worked in that field, did some jailing and stuff like that. So, and then has clerical administrative. Kind of like, I think it'd be a really good fit for me and for Lauren. I'm excited about it because it help us when we have those weeks where we got to ramp up to get ready to try something. Yeah.
So maybe one of you can answer this question when it comes to salary and dividing it up. You mentioned maybe some weeks you'd either 12 or 15 hours a week and others 30 or 20 or 30.
So I think I'd be responsible for what, 18?
Yeah, 18.75 hours each is what we need.
Regardless.
And I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Maybe, like I said, I might be getting the short end of the stick most weeks.
It would be 37 hours.
Yeah, 37 and a half hours a week.
37 and a half.
Yeah, and there may be times with election that maybe I need a little more time as well. I think this is the best deal. We're instead of each of us getting up to 29 hours potentially, we're getting 37 and a half hours, 29 times 2 potentially what it would have been with part-time person. We're doing one person at 37 and a half. Of course, then there comes the insurance and that type of thing. But we don't know if the person wants to use the insurance or not. We assume they would, but.
So this wouldn't cause any changes in your proposed budget, any increase in any salary out of last?
No,
We work with it.
yeah, and the only, we're looking at, starting this person out at $20.25 an hour. That's what we can do to get that person here. And then a 6-month increase would be at 3% increase pending a successful performance review. And that can fit in both of our budgets.
That will come after the first of the year, then probably.
6 months, yeah. If this person can start, it wouldn't be until August. 6 months.
If you're on the short end occasionally, part of your budget would be paying the wage while she's in the auditor's office.
I really do kind of think I'm ahead because, I'm ahead because that just those hours, like that would be probably like 3 mornings a week. Victim and witness coordination stuff and some of the other. It probably honestly be about even out by the time.
I think we'll be quite.
It's gonna be pretty close to 50
Yeah.
because there'll probably be some training years. Yeah. I think it'd be a good fit.
When did you want to start? Because you have a person in mind, right?
You do, we're waiting for an acceptance and, I haven't heard anything, I haven't my email yet since the weekend, but, so formally, next week, we would have the board do a resolution to solidify that we're okay with doing this, position like this, and we have that acceptance, we would put those by per chapter 331, 904, and 905, you have to approve the hiring of our staff. Make it formal with a resolution.
Ideally, get it done, be like early next month.
Oh, early next month, okay, August, okay.
But it should be, I think it's not gonna hit our budgets as hard. What we had talked, or my budget, it's not gonna be hard, because I actually started a little bit lower. And we have a whole month with, both of us have a whole month for no wages. Person which both of us had it budgeted.
And you guys,
I'm excited about it. About every month, we have to be ready for a trial. You know, basically, every month, we have a trial date, and kind of get up. That's kind of a stressful week because you don't know whether you're going to have to go to trial, play a little brinksmanship with these cases, you know. So that's kind of like everything's a scramble. I find when you scramble, if you're ready, then the case settles. And when you don't do that, then, but yeah, so that would be a help for us.
Good questions or comments?
I don't have any.
No,
I gotta go back up.
All right, next item we do that, we talk about, which is review and action regarding the pay increase for the county attorney's staff.
Yeah, that was, so what we talked about is discussed is do the seniority with Allison and the new person come in and adjust her pay to her 6% now, or I'm sorry, 3% now, which is like that about 60 cents.
Actually, we talked about, because if we give the 2025 and then 3%, we talked about putting Allison at what that amount would be, which was in your email, like that was a 2086, I think.
So
$20.86. And then at that 6 month time, if the new person accepts, Allison and the new person would both be at $20.86. So it's actually 4.3% increase for Allison now. And
she's been on board, I think she's on her 4th month. She's doing great.
is that any email sent on that?
that was with your agenda packet.
I missed it in there.
Paragraph in the agenda
Saw it
packet.
someplace.
The email with your agenda packet attached. It says, in case Todd doesn't make it to the meeting, for number 9, we'd like the board to consider giving Allison Hawking a pay increase a little earlier than her 6 months. She started April 1st at $20 an hour, has caught on very well in her position. She probably should have started at a higher pay rate. You would like to bump her to $20.86, a 4.3% increase. If you approve this, it can be effective for the next payroll, August 1st, whenever you decide you want to make that effective.
And the thinking one is, bringing somebody to 225, then there's the seniority is fair and review the seniority that Allison would have. She's been doing a great job. She's kind of exceeded expectations.
So it is related to the hiring of the new shared employee. Because it's.
Well, Allison's at $20 an hour, and we're looking at the new one at 2025.
Given her current salary where she's working now.
want to take action on that now, or wait till we see it and get this?
Well, maybe that might be more appropriate.
Your thoughts on
Not sure.
We'll see.
We're talking two different people.
Allison is our new hire, she started April,
April 1st.
and then
April would be getting the 3% increase.
after 6 months. She's due for increase.
She's been here a little over 3 months so
Yeah,
far.
she's in her,
Yeah.
she's in her 4th month.
Usually they occur after 6
6
months.
Often it's 6 months. It's been all over the place. Sometimes it's been July 1. No matter what, it's been July 1. And oftentimes it's 6 months. You know, you look at different departments and like public health has based on hours worked. They have an hours threshold that they have to reach before they get an increase, which could be, less than 6 months or more than 6 months.
I think what you said, that when this, it is kind of based on the new employee arriving or signing on, whatever. If and when that happens, it might be a good time to take action.
that could happen at the next meeting.
What'd you say, Mark?
We could have, we know if the new shared employee was accepting the position by our next meeting.
And I don't have to make sure that happens. I think just from our conversation with her, though, she's pretty helpful.
Budget wise, second, I get to affect the budget.
That guy of our budgets with how, because again, he had an assistant county, a part-time assistant county attorney budgeted. I had a 29-hour week person budgeted.
Bump won't affect either your budget.
She would have gotten an increase at 6 months, but again, we're 1 month with no wage, with no person in either of our budgets.
I mean, you see, we're bringing in a new person at 225, and and that new person would have been ahead of somebody with a little bit of seniority. Stay about Alice.
I think even at starting so much $20 an hour anymore is, and some of these types of positions is,
You want to pass it? Yeah, say if this person accepts at 225, then Jane it a little bit.
Or you can just table the motion until next week. Table any action on it, see what happens. I think that's what we're kind of discussing.
Yeah.
You'd be okay with that?
Yeah. So I think it's gonna come together.
I'll make a motion to table the pay increase for county attorney staff.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion made by Supervisor Jorgensen and seconded by Kiefer to table a review and action regarding county served staff for individual staff for increase. Actually, they were asking for 4.9. Future meeting. Is there further discussion? Everybody understands the motion, we're just tabling it. We'll be talking about it again at future meeting. This proposal to this shared employee is actually accepted. Is there any further discussion? Any comments from anyone listening on the phone? Those in favor of the motion to table, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. All right, back to the July 8th minutes. What was found out by staff who listened to all that discussion, you know? Minutes currently say Keelan provided an overview of the intervention process leading up to the permit issued to Summit Carbon Solutions by the IUB, Whipple has asked the 7 counties to consider filing a motion for the IUB to reconsider their decision to issue the permit. And Kathy actually stated that she believes that the permit wasn't issued.
And that's accurate.
Actually, all these words really are important because what really happened was on June 25th, the Iowa Utility Board, I'm reading from our motion to reconsider right now. So what it says is on June 25th, 2024, the Iowa Utilities Board issued a final decision and order in this docket approving a permit for Summit's Carbon Solutions. The order. Period. So they did approve a permit for Summit Carbon Solutions.
Okay.
So actually it's Kathy that's, I don't think there's anything in our minutes. I don't know. It is inaccurate then, because what was being questioned was the fact whether or not there was a permit approved. And so, as I read, the order in the docket, the order is approving. So what we did, we gathered together to file a motion to reconsider was the final decision and order. They have lots of other things. They're not gonna start putting the pipeline in the ground till all those things that are done. But yeah, they have a permit. So I don't see any need to change.
Motion's good.
Yeah.
Nothing to change it, really.
Not really, no motion to approve. But it's good that people read the minutes. I point out to it, so we're on that. Is there a motion to approve the July 8th school board?
So move.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Supervisor Jorgensen and a second by Kiefer to approve the minutes of the July 8th meeting as presented. Is there further discussion? Any comment from anyone listening on the phone? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion's carried. Item 12, future agenda items.
We need to put the pay increase, item number 9, your agenda
I'm
item.
sure we will. I like that a lot.
And then, the resolution,
Yes.
and I have an agenda item also. Yeah, I had everything budgeted to spend ARPA dollars by June 30th last year, so we have 0 budgeted for this year. So at your prior meeting, you made a motion to pay the Ehlers and Cooney bill at $36. We have 0 money budgeted, so I would do an amendment, we can't pay that or any other ARPA dollars. And so next meeting, I'd like to have you, set a date for a hearing for a budget amendment.
Okay.
So, it'll be the clean part of the budget amendment will put all the remaining dollars left for ARPA to spend this fiscal year. And then it'll also have the balance of the Motorola or the communications tower project. That will be a more updated balance in there. We won't know what interest will be, so that'll still be future. Probably might have to do an amendment after that project is nearing its end and then it's accrued on that account balance, but we'll take that.
Okay, anything further?
No.
All right, item 13.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Supervisor Kiefer, second by Jorgensen to adjourn. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. You are adjourned.